Moving on to the second stanza of the poem, O Captain, my Captain. Here the poet say, now the narrator is saying he's desperate because, like we discussed in the first stanza, when we were doing the first stanza, that the narrator can't just accept that the person who has been guiding the ship all these months throughout the course of the journey is now no more. So he says, please, Captain, Captain, please rise, rise up and hear the bells, he says. Oh, Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills, for you bouquets and ribbon wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. So, what does he say? He says, Captain, please get up, hear the bells of celebration, rise. Sit up. The flag has been flung, so people are waving the flag. The people have hoisted the flag. They're blowing trumpets. There's music. There are bouquets. There are flowers. So all of the paraphernalia and stuff which is used to welcome um, someone, someone you just admire, who's a celebrity, who is a public leader. So you see how the shores are crowding, they're full of people, right? And look at the dashes in between. Rise up, for you the flag is flung. That expresses the anxiety, the confused state of mind of the narrator, because he doesn't know what to do, right? So he's faltering even as he's addressing the captain, because one half of his uh, self knows that the captain is not going to get up, and the other half doesn't want to accept that the captain is dead. And he's still persisting, he's still urging the captain to get up. He says, for you they call the swaying mass. So what's the crowd like on the shore? They're swaying. Swaying is this movement, where you're singing and you're moving to a rhythm. So they're probably singing or swaying to a music because they are waiting for their leader, and their eager faces turning. So their eager faces are just waiting for your figure, for your face to emerge, right? Here, Captain, dear father. Now he addresses him as father, father of the nation. He says, please, here, Captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head. It is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. So he's still not able to come to terms with the idea that the captain, who was so full of life just a few minutes ago, is suddenly dead. And he says, this is some kind of a nightmare. This can't be true. This can't be real. This has to be some kind of a dream, that you are cold and fallen. So look at the repetition. Repetition reinforces an idea. So fallen, cold, and dead. We saw it in the first stanza, we saw it in the second stanza. Right? Now, moving on to the third stanza. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. So, here, probably the narrator is either speaking to himself, or he's addressing the invisible reader. He says, my captain is not speaking to me. His lips are pale and still. So, it's a clear sign that the captain is dead. My father does not feel my arm. So, I've tried to place his head in the crook of my arm, but he does not feel it. He has no pulse. He's lifeless. And he has no will. Will is the willpower to get up. So, if you are unwell, sometimes you get okay because you have the willpower. But if you've been shot dead, how on earth are you going to get up? This is not a question of willpower at all, because you're just stone dead. You're just stone cold. You're just dead, right? So he says that he does not have the will because his mind is in denial. The narrator's mind is in denial that the captain or the president is dead. Dead. The ship is anchored safe and sound. So now there's another problem. The ship has hit shore. right? The ship has arrived at the shore and it is anchored. Anchor is that thing that ships drop so that it sinks into the sand. It goes to the sea floor of the sea, and the ship remains where it is. So, and its voyage closed and done. So the ship's journey is over. The ship is anchored. It has come to a stop. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes in with object one. So, what was the journey like? It was fearful. But what was the result? The ship was victorious, right? So, again, you see how the metaphor continues that the ship, the journey, full of difficulties, full of problems, full of struggles, and yet the ship has emerged victorious, right? And the purpose that it had set out to, the destination it had wanted to reach, it has reached over there. It has arrived. And he says, exult, O shores, and ring, O bells. So, shores, here he's addressing the people because it's not the shore which is full of joy, it's the people who are on the shore who are full of joy, right? So, that's a figure of speech, literary device. It's a way of, it's the way you use language in poetry. So, exalt, O shores, and ring, O bells. So, he's saying, bells start ringing, but I with mournful tread. But how am I going to walk? You can celebrate. It's a big day for all of you because we have a new nation. Our journey is successful. But I am going to walk mournfully with a heavy heart, full of sadness, full of sorrow. Walk the deck, my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. Why am I grieving? Because the man who brought us here is now dead. Right? So that's the spirit of the poem. Now let's look at some themes and literary devices. Like I said, there was hyperbole, there was metaphor, sometimes there was also personification. There's apostrophe throughout. Apostrophe is when you're actually addressing someone who's absent or someone who's dead. So you could see how this person kept addressing, right? Um, he kept addressing the captain who stood for the president who was no more. Major theme, of course, is the death of Abraham Lincoln at the end of the Civil War. And each stanza, actually, it gives us a clue about the war, right? But it is so through the metaphor of the voyage and through the metaphor of how difficult the journey was, the trip, the fearful trip, because he keeps repeating that phrase also. So there's a lot of repetition also in the poem. And like I said, repetition reinforces an idea, right? And then when he says, exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, this is also a kind of uh, personification because shores and bells, they are not human uh, beings or people who can actually rise and exalt. So he's attributing human qualities to non-human uh, objects or items, but that's what personification it does, right? And yeah, that's about it. And then uh, you have a lot of inversion where uh, phrases, the order or the word order is inverted for maximum impact. So I'll give you an example. Let us see. Hmm. So, if you look at the third line of the first stanza, the pot is near, the bells I hear. So, this is for a rhyming effect, right? Near rhymes with here. But normally, if you were just speaking in plain language, you would say, "Oh, I can hear the bells," or "I hear the bells," not "the bells I hear." So, this is an example of inversion. So, these are some of the literary devices which the poem uses to kind of bring about maximum dramatic effect And the purpose of poetry, of course, is to create an impact, to resonate with its readers, right? So, since this is an elegy and the primary and central emotion is that of grief, that of sorrow, so these are the devices that collectively kind of help in expressing that sorrow. So, that was all about O Captain, My Captain. And I hope you enjoyed the session. And I wish that you go back and you read the poem and you read a little more about Abraham Lincoln, who was an exemplary individual, and about the American Civil War and the kind of rights people were fighting for, which is very inspirational and motivating. And read the poem on your own and experience and enjoy the poem on your own. Thank you so much.